The steel bars cast long shadows across the dirt floor as Marcus pressed himself against the far corner of the cage. His breathing came in shallow gasps, and every muscle in his body screamed at him to run, though there was nowhere to go. Across from him, separated by barely 3 meters of enclosed space, crouched something that shouldn't exist. The creature was massive, easily twice his size, with midnight black scales that seemed to absorb what little light filtered through the canvas tent above them. Its eyes glowed a dull amber in the darkness, pupils contracting to vertical slits as it studied him with an intelligence that made Marcus's stomach turn. 4 powerful limbs ending in curved talons scraped against the metal floor with each slight movement. A long tail, thick as Marcus's thigh, coiled and uncoiled behind it like a serpent with its own mind. The Cravathi slavers had thrown him in here 2 hours ago, laughing in their clicking language as they sealed the cage door. Marcus didn't need a translator to understand their intent. This was entertainment for them. A human, one of the newest species to stumble onto the galactic stage, locked in a cage with a Velkar hunter. The galaxy knew the Velkar as apex predators from a death world where survival meant killing or being killed. Their reputation preceded them across 1,000 systems. Marcus had heard the stories during his brief time as a freight hauler. Velkar could tear through reinforced bulkheads with their bare claws. They could survive in vacuum for short periods. Their bite could crush duralloy, and they were territorial, aggressive, and utterly uncompromising when it came to threats. The creature shifted, and Marcus flinched. His hand instinctively went to his side, feeling for the plasma cutter he'd been carrying when the slavers ambushed his ship. Gone, of course. They'd stripped him of everything except his torn jumpsuit and boots. He was completely defenseless against something that evolution had sculpted into a perfect killing machine. The Velkar's nostrils flared, and Marcus realized it was scenting him, tasting his fear on the recycled air. Its lips pulled back slightly, revealing rows of serrated teeth designed for rending flesh. Marcus felt his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. Outside the cage, he could hear the Cravathi moving about their camp. Occasional bursts of their insectoid laughter filtered through the tent walls. They were probably taking bets on how long he'd last. Minutes, he guessed. Maybe seconds if the Velkar decided to attack immediately. But the attack didn't come. Instead, the creature settled onto its haunches, tail wrapping around its body. Those burning amber eyes never left Marcus, but it made no move toward him. Just watched. Waited. Marcus tried to slow his breathing, tried to think. Panic wouldn't help him survive. He'd been in tight situations before, though nothing quite like this. There had to be something he could do, some way to make it through the night. Maybe if he stayed perfectly still, didn't provoke it, the Velkar might ignore him until the slavers opened the cage in the morning. An hour passed, then 2. Marcus's legs began to cramp from holding the same position, but he didn't dare move. The Velkar remained motionless as well, a living statue of contained violence. Only its eyes moved, tracking the smallest twitch of Marcus's fingers, the rise and fall of his chest. Around what Marcus guessed was midnight, the tent flap opened. A Cravathi slaver entered, its chitinous body reflecting the harsh light it carried. The insectoid alien approached the cage, mandibles clicking together in what might have been amusement. It held something in its upper manipulator limbs, a long prod crackling with electrical discharge. "Time for show, human," the Cravathi said in broken standard. "Make predator angry, make fight." Before Marcus could respond, the slaver jabbed the prod through the bars, aiming for him. Marcus scrambled backward, but the cage offered little room to maneuver. The electrical tip caught his shoulder, and white-hot agony exploded through his nervous system. He cried out, falling to his hands and knees. The Velkar moved. It happened so fast that Marcus barely processed it. One moment the creature was across the cage, the next it had launched itself at the bars between the slaver and Marcus. Its massive claws wrapped around the metal, and it released a sound that Marcus felt in his bones, a deep, resonant roar that shook the entire cage structure. The Cravathi stumbled backward, its compound eyes reflecting genuine surprise. The prod clattered to the ground. The Velkar's jaws snapped at the bars, stopping mere centimeters from the slaver's face. Another roar, this one even more threatening. The slaver chittered something that sounded like cursing and quickly retreated from the tent. The Velkar remained at the bars for several long moments, claws gouging deep marks into the metal. Then, slowly, it turned back toward Marcus. Marcus had frozen in place, still on his hands and knees, his shoulder throbbing from the electrical burn. The Velkar approached him, each step deliberate and measured. This was it. Whatever restraint had kept the creature from attacking before was gone. Marcus squeezed his eyes shut, waiting for those terrible claws to end him. Instead, he felt something warm and rough press against his injured shoulder. His eyes snapped open. The Velkar was sniffing the burn mark, its hot breath washing over Marcus's skin. Then, with surprising gentleness, it used one massive claw to carefully tear away the burned fabric of his jumpsuit, exposing the wound. Marcus didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. The Velkar examined the injury with what almost seemed like concern, then settled down beside him, close enough that Marcus could feel the heat radiating from its scaled body. The creature positioned itself between Marcus and the bars, between Marcus and the tent entrance, between Marcus and any future attacks. Understanding hit Marcus like a physical blow. The Velkar wasn't protecting its territory, it was protecting him. "Why?" Marcus whispered, his voice hoarse. The creature's head turned slightly, one amber eye regarding him. Of course it couldn't answer. The Velkar were sapient, spacefaring, but they didn't use verbal language as humans understood it. Their communication involved pheromones, body language, and subsonic frequencies. But sitting there in that cage, Marcus felt like he understood anyway. They were both prisoners, both victims of the same slavers, and maybe, just maybe, the Velkar recognized something in this fragile human that resonated with its own situation. The night dragged on. Marcus eventually shifted into a sitting position, his back against the cage wall. His shoulder hurt, but the pain had dulled to a manageable throb. The Velkar remained beside him, alert, watchful. Once, another Cravathi approached the cage, and the Velkar's warning growl sent it scurrying away before it even got close. As the hours passed, Marcus found his fear gradually being replaced by something else, not quite trust, but a tentative sense of safety. The creature that should have been his executioner had become his guardian. Near dawn, exhaustion finally overtook Marcus's anxiety. His eyelids grew heavy, and despite every instinct screaming at him to stay awake, he began to drift. Just before sleep claimed him, he felt the Velkar shift closer, its massive body curling partially around him, sharing its warmth in the cold pre-dawn air. When sunlight began filtering through the tent canvas, voices outside jolted Marcus awake. The Cravathi were returning, and they sounded agitated. Multiple sets of clicking footsteps approached the cage. Marcus's heart sank. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't be good. The tent flap burst open, and 5 Cravathi slavers entered, all carrying weapons. The lead slaver, larger than the others, and adorned with what might have been rank insignia, chittered angrily at the sight of Marcus still alive. "Defective predator," it spat. "No kill human. We fix. We make it fight proper." The slavers raised their weapons, energy rifles that hummed with charging capacitors. They weren't aiming at Marcus. They were aiming at the Velkar. The Velkar rose to its full, impressive height and positioned itself directly in front of Marcus. Another of those bone-shaking roars filled the tent. But the Slavers didn't retreat this time. They had numbers and firepower. Marcus saw what was about to happen. They'd shoot the Velkar, probably stun it rather than kill it, since it had value as a slave or fighting beast. Then they'd take Marcus out and throw in some other poor soul for tomorrow's entertainment. Something broke inside Marcus then. Not fear or despair, but a dam that had been holding back something far more powerful. Rage. This creature had protected him, had chosen compassion over violence despite every reason not to. And these slavers were going to hurt it for that choice. No, Marcus said, his voice low but steady. He stood, placing one hand on the Velkar's scaled flank. The creature's muscles tensed under his touch, but it didn't pull away. The lead Kravathi's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Human shows bravery, amusing. You die together then. The slaver raised its rifle. Marcus moved on instinct. His hand shot out and grabbed one of the cage bars. Then he began shaking it violently while shouting at the top of his lungs. "Help! Someone help! Slaver camp! Human prisoner!" The Kravathi froze. Marcus kept shouting, kept making as much noise as possible. The Velkar seemed to understand what Marcus was attempting. It added its voice to his, roaring with enough force to be heard for kilometers. The tent filled with the sound of their combined desperation. And then, impossibly, another sound joined them, the high-pitched whine of ship engines overhead. The Kravathi scattered like insects from overturned stones. Through the tent's translucent fabric, Marcus saw the shadow of a patrol craft passing overhead. His distress call had been heard. The lead slaver shot him one last look of pure hatred before fleeing with its cohorts. Within minutes, the camp was in chaos. Marcus heard energy weapons fire, shouts in standard, the thump of boots on packed earth. Galactic patrol. They'd found the slaver camp. The tent flap opened again, but this time it was a human in patrol armor who entered. Weapon raised, scanning for threats. The officer's eyes went wide at the sight of Marcus and the Velkar pressed together in the cage. "Stand back from the prisoner," the officer shouted. "No," Marcus said firmly. "We're both prisoners. This one protected me." More patrol officers entered. A Centaurian tech specialist approached with a plasma torch to cut through the cage lock. As the door swung open, Marcus stepped out carefully, making sure the Velkar understood it could follow. The creature emerged slowly, warily, its eyes tracking every armed officer in the tent. Marcus stayed close, one hand still resting on its scaled shoulder. He could feel it trembling, whether from adrenaline or fear or something else entirely. "It's okay," Marcus said softly. "You're safe now." "We both are." The Velkar looked down at him with those amber eyes, and Marcus would swear until his dying day that he saw gratitude in that alien gaze. The creature lowered its massive head and gently pressed it against Marcus's chest, just for a moment. A gesture of acknowledgement, of connection. The patrol processed them both as freed captives. Marcus learned that the Velkar had been taken from a colony ship 3 months earlier. Its name, as much as it could be translated, meant something like "stone that stands." Marcus called it Stone, and the creature seemed to accept this. As they were transported to the nearest patrol station for medical treatment and debriefing, Marcus sat beside Stone in the holding bay. The Velkar had refused to be separated from him, and after Marcus explained what had happened, the patrol officers agreed to keep them together. "You know," Marcus said, looking up at his unlikely companion, "everyone said your kind were monsters, mindless predators." Stone's tail coiled once around Marcus's waist, gentle despite its strength. "They were wrong," Marcus continued. "You're not a predator. Well, you are, but that's not all you are. You're a person, and you chose to be kind when you could have been cruel. That means everything." In the days that followed, Marcus and Stone became something of a sensation. Their story spread through the Galactic Patrol Network, then to the civilian news feeds. A human and a Velkar, two species that should have been enemies, forged into something like family through a night of shared captivity. The xenopsychologists wanted to study them. The media wanted interviews. But Marcus insisted on only one thing: that Stone be granted full legal personhood and citizenship rights in whatever system it chose. Eventually, Stone chose to stay near Marcus. They found work together on a frontier station, Marcus handling the technical aspects of station maintenance, while Stone's strength and intimidating presence made them ideal for security work. They lived in adjacent quarters, ate meals together, and developed their own form of communication that blended human words with Velkar body language. Sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, Marcus would think back to that cage, to the moment when Stone had chosen protection over violence, when it had seen him not as prey, but as someone worth defending. That choice had changed both their lives. "You know what the funny thing is?" Marcus said one evening as they sat watching ships dock through a viewport. "Everyone talks about humans being special because we're pack bonders, because we make friends with anything, but you did the same thing. You saw someone who needed protecting, and you stepped up. Maybe humans aren't special at all. Maybe compassion is universal, and we just need to give others the chance to show it." Stone rumbled deep in its chest, a sound Marcus had learned meant agreement. Its tail tapped against the deck plating in a rhythm that might have been contentment. They sat together in comfortable silence, predator and prey, human and alien, bound not by biology but by choice. By the decision, made in a desperate cage on a terrible night, to see each other as something more than what the galaxy expected them to be. Family, Marcus thought, came in all forms, and sometimes it came with scales, claws, and amber eyes that glowed with fierce loyalty in the darkness.